The first question for you, Tim. What are your top 10 things to leave off a Ford order?
Okay. I'd say the biggest thing, of course, I think we've all kind of been saying this, at least Johnny and I have for about a year now, is that keep those things that you can get later off your order, right? So, I mean, I don't know if you want to name all of the different bed accessories, but your tonneau covers, taking those off of your orders, leaving those off, leaving off the bed extender, your splash guards. Yeah, the protective film is a big one. I actually had someone the other day on the Maverick Truck Club that had said, they have a 22 that they put in that's still not scheduled for 23 that think there's going to roll over to 24, and whether or not they're going to get both private offers, which we don't know yet. And even one of the persons that I reached out to that said, that's a great question. I don't think we thought about that. And they don't have the answer. And so they said, well, I said, you need to make sure, first of all, you should get scheduled by now if you had a 22 to 23 and your dealership prioritized your order. I said, but you need, do you have any of these items? And they said, well, the protective film, it's being produced at 3%, but it's the amount of orders is 2%. So it's within its capacity. I said, yeah, but the capacity is so low that it's going to take a while for it to get scheduled because it's, I mean, I'd rather be in that I've always kind of used it the joke of if I'm gambling, I'd rather take something that I'm going to win 97% of the time versus the 3% of the time. And that's where they're at, is they have protective film. And I'm like, take it off, because it's going to be a lot harder to get scheduled. I've seen so many times where we had 2 orders that were our last 2 to get scheduled from rolled over from 22 to 23. And we had a couple new orders that passed over them. And I said, we need you to take your bed cover off. And the other one, they had to take the splash guards off. And we did that month. The next month, they both scheduled. So yeah, those low percentage items are what's is a killer, to take those things off of your order. So that's probably the biggest things, is those accessories more than anything. So.
Yeah, that's a good advice, because what you can put after this, you can just leave it now. Yeah, that's a good advice.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it won't change anything. You're still going to get what you want. I really like how you explain it, and how even if there's space for it, why not put all the chances? If you're a gambler, go with what you have. Go with the winnings. And how I picture it in my head is we've got roughly 3,300 dealers across Canada and the US. And I like to picture a big wheel that turns. And there's 3,300 spots on that wheel. And if everyone's getting, when we look, next month you get 5 Ford Maverick allotments for your dealership. Some it's going to be, 8. Some dealerships it's going to be 0 or 1. But when it becomes, that wheel is turning. And when it becomes your dealership's turn, well, even if you're only at 3% people who are asking for that clear film, and there's 2% availability, you could think, oh, well, of course I'm going to get it. Well, not necessarily, because if you're at the end of that wheel and you're the last dealer to get fed its allocations, well, then the other dealers will have taken up that wrap, and there won't be any. And then instead of you getting built, well, the person behind you or a few people behind you in your dealership's waiting list get picked up before you do, and you can time after time continuously get pushed until, I like to picture that wheel again. At some point in the year, your dealership's going to get picked first, and you'll get, even if something isn't available, you're going to get luck of the draw. Mind you, it's very rare, but when your dealership is the first, well, then if there's any available parts, and all the available parts for, let's say, a Bronco, which was extremely restrained. Well, for example, I got a Wild Track Bronco built, but my dealership, 1, had allocations, which is really important. And 2, I was the next one up on the list, and it must have been, our dealership must have been pretty early on that spinning wheel. It wasn't, we weren't at the point in the year where we're getting picked out and allocated vehicles last out of the 3,300 dealerships. I hope that makes sense to the community.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way of putting it. So